Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mr. Ipock coming to you on this Wednesday afternoon for a lesson. I have 8.5 on the notes, but it should actually have been 4.5, part 2. So again, this right here is the flow chart for moving any equation to slope intercept form. So if you ever want to reference that, feel free to come back and pause it during that part. Maybe take a picture of it or something like that. So I'm going to jump right into it. And right into your homework for tonight. Let's just jump down to let's just start with 3 first. Okay. So again, I'm going to work through a few of these problems with you. Let's look at 3. So the very first question we ask ourselves is y on the left side. Yes, y is on the left side. So what we want to do is we want to move everything else away from that y to get it to the other side. How do you move anything to the other side? You move anything to the other side by doing the inverse operation. Well, how am I going to get 5 over there? Well, right now 5 is a positive 5, so I need it minus 5 from both sides. So what I have to do, sorry about that interruption, but I basically got to ask myself, what makes this 0 on this side? And that would be doing the inverse operation. So, but what I do to one side, I got to do to the other. So right here, this cancels, leaving me with whatever I have left right here. Just drop it down. Negative 7x plus y equals negative 5. Now, is y completely isolated? It is not, so I had to still, is y on the left side? Yes, it is. Move everything else away from it. So how do I get this minus 7x off of this side to that side? Do the inverse operation. What's the inverse of subtraction? Addition. Add 7x to both sides. This cancels. I'm left with y equals, now we could write this negative 5 plus 7x, but slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we want the slope in x first and then the constant or the y-intercept. So I'm going to say 7x minus 5. Circle my answer. Again, that's the process. Follow that flow chart on how to do this. Okay, follow that flow chart on how to do this. Now again, you may not have done it this way. That's completely fine, but you still got the answer. That's the main thing. Again, this is such an abstract concept that not everyone's going to do it the same way. Okay, people may see it totally different. For example, if I was to rework this problem, 5 minus 7x plus y equals 0. If I was to rework this another way without kind of following the flow chart, I could easily, very, very easily say subtract y from both sides. That leaves me with 5 minus 7x equals negative y. And then watch, now I'm going to flip it. So there'd be negative y equals negative 7x plus 5. But then that negative y, I can just basically divide everything by negative 1 or simply remove that and then just change all these to the inverse. 7x is a negative, so it becomes positive, and that's a negative, so minus 5. So notice here, I still get the same answer, but it's just worked a different way. Okay, these can be worked in so many ways that I really can't put a number on how many ways they can work. I'm going to encourage you to all to follow that flow chart, and this is kind of the way to get it with the flow chart. But again, there's other ways to do that, and that's kind of that's what math is. There's more than one way to find an answer. Let's skip down here to number 8. 0 equals 9 minus 3y minus 3x. So we have two options here with 8. We can either flip the equation, just flip it totally, put what's on the right to the left and what's on the left to the right, or we can move the y to the left side using inverse operations. So what you ask yourself is, y on the left side? No, it's not. So you have two options. Flip it or move it to the left side using inverse operations. In my opinion right here, the best thing to do is to flip it. Or excuse me, not to flip it, is to move the negative 3y to the left side using inverse operations. So I'm going to add 3y. Mr. Ipock, why are you adding? I'm adding because it's the inverse of this. I need it to be 0 on this side, and what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now I have 3y equals 9 minus 3x. So notice I just brought everything else down. Okay. Then from there, I now have y over here to the left, but I have this coefficient of 3 with it. I got to do the inverse operation to get that 3 off of it. Right now it's being multiplied by y, so I need to divide it by y. And what I do to one side, I got to do to the other. So I got to divide everything here by 3. So this cancels. I'm left with y equals 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then negative 3x divided by 3 is negative 1x, or just simply negative x. Notice this is not in slope intercept form, so we're going to put it in slope intercept form. Y equals x minus 3. Okay. Let's look at one more from this side. Let's go down here to number. Let's look at 10. Let's look at number 10. 2 minus x minus y equals 0. So what I would do here on this one, notice, is y on the left side? Yes, it is. So move everything else to the right side using inverse operations. Okay? So we do that, and so I'd have to subtract 2. Why subtract? Because it's a positive 2. I got to get it to 0 on this side or make it cancel. What I do to one side, I got to do to the other. I'm left with negative x minus y equals negative 2. My next line is y on the left side. Yes, it is. Follow that flow chart. Move everything else to the right side. So you got minus x. So add x. What I do to one side, got to do to the other. This makes it 0 or simply cancels on that side. So now I'm left with negative y equals, instead of saying negative 2 plus x, I'm going to say x minus 2. Why did I do that? Because, again, that y equals mx plus b, it kind of sets you up for your final answer. Now notice here, this is a negative. But we can't have a negative y because it's not negative y equals mx plus b. It's positive y. So we take that negative off. The way you take that negative off is just simply taking it off there and then changing these signs to their inverse. So the inverse of positive is negative, so negative x, and the inverse of negative is positive. So negative x plus 2. And that's accomplished simply by dividing everything by negative 1. That's kind of the work behind the shortcut. Okay? And if you look at that, 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1x, and negative 2 divided by negative 1 is positive 2. Okay. Again, this is another problem that could be worked another way. I'll just kind of, and here's my final answer. So 2 minus x minus y equals 0. Another way I could do this problem is by simply adding the y first to get it on that side. Again, this doesn't follow a flow chart, but it's another way. I'm trying to help you. Guys see this problem a little bit different. Notice here I got 2 minus x equals y. Now flip it. And I have y equals 2 minus x, or in slope intercept form, y equals negative x plus 2. Notice, same answer, done totally different. Okay? But that's okay. Again, this is an abstract concept because there's more than one way to do it. All right? Just kind of looking through here, if I was you, I'm zooming out a little bit. If I was you, I would, in my opinion, I would tell you what I would probably do with each one. Obviously, that one, the y's there, so you just got to move the negative 1 over. Look at number 2. I would probably flip this one. Look at number 4. Obviously, the only thing I do there is divide everything by 2. Same thing with number 5. You just got to divide everything by 2. With number 6, you just got to move that 3x to this side. So by saying subtract 3x, like that. That's your first step. Look at number 7. I would probably flip. I'd probably flip this. So I'd read negative 5y minus 3x equals negative 10. Notice I'm shooting through here pretty quick, but I'm just trying to give you these helpful hints so you can kind of pause it at any time. Going to the back side, I'm going to work probably 3 from here, and then we'll kind of move on. Look at number 13. Just to kind of start, notice 13, negative 6. Let me zoom back in. Negative 6 equals x minus 3y. Is y on the left side? No, y is not on the left side, so I need to move it to the right side by either flipping it or by moving it using inverse operations. To me, I'm going to move it using inverse operations, so I'm going to add 3y to both sides. I do that. Notice here it cancels because negative 3 plus 3 simply gives a 0, and then on this side I'd have 3y minus 6 equals x. From there, I'm going to simply use the inverse operations, and I'm going to add 6 because y is on the left side, so I'm going to move everything else away from it. So I add 6. This cancels. I got 3y equals x plus 6. Can't stop there. Again, guys, you heard me say this a million times in class today. You only divide when you have a coefficient and a variable. You're never dividing before this in any other step. You're only dividing when you're to this point right here. So now divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. This is y equals, what's in front of that x? A 1. So this would be 1/3 x plus 2. Okay, looking at number 15, just skipping down to number 15. Negative x plus 4y minus 20 equals 0. So if you're looking at that, notice y is on the left side, so move everything else away from it. So I'm going to start by moving the x, so add x to both sides. Again, I'm trying to isolate that y, and I don't divide. Don't jump on this bandwagon of trying to divide everything by 4. You only divide when you're left with a coefficient and y. Never divide any other time. Okay? So add x. It cancels on this side, leaving me with 4y minus 20 equals x. Now notice, do I divide now? No, don't divide. Okay? Don't divide yet because you still have something here. So move this to the right side. So plus 20, plus 20. That cancels there. I got 4y equals x plus 20. Now look at this. What do I have? A coefficient in y. That's when I divide. So why am I dividing? Because it's the inverse operation of multiplication, which is happening between the coefficient and the variable. So in order to get the coefficient off the variable, I have to do the inverse operation of what's happening. So I can divide everything by 4, but I just can't divide this side. I have to divide everything on this side as well. This cancels. I'm left with y equals, what's in front of that x? A 1. 1 over 4x plus 20 divided by 4 is 5. 1/4 x plus 5. Look at number 19. Guys, don't overthink number 19. Look at it. 5x minus 5 equals y. Is y on the left side? No. So move it to the left side using inverse operations or flip it. Y equals 5x minus 5. It's probably the easiest one on the worksheet. Okay. Notice number 20. This will be the last one I do. Negative 10 plus 7x equals 2y. So, guys, notice this. Is y on the left side? No, it's not. So I'm going to move. You can either move it using inverse operations or flip it. What I'm going to do is just simply flip it. So say 2y equals, watch this. I'm going to change this up. 7x minus 10. Why did I change it up? I changed it up because I put it in slope intercept form. And it's completely okay if you do that. All right? So then from there, just make sure your signs are right if you switch it up like that. So from there, divide everything by 2. Why am I dividing everything by 2? Because look what's here to the left. A coefficient and y. That's when you divide. That cancels. I got y equals 7 halves x. And then what's negative 10 divided by positive 2? That would be a negative 5. Hey, that's all I got for you this afternoon, students. So, hey, if you need help, see me in the morning. Hey, don't forget those parent surveys to get you 5 extra points on this work. Hey, thanks so much. Have a good night.